if you could kind of describe how this petition developed or how you got involved with it, and in your opinion, what makes it necessary in San Antonio.
For sure. Greetings, everybody. So, I work with an organization called Southwest Workers Union. We primarily work with working families here in San Antonio, Texas, and have a long history of working on environmental justice and issues that affect people directly. Along the way, we noticed that the rate hikes for San Antonio continued to grow and felt that that was an important um, piece to challenge, particularly because many of the projects that were being proposed from SAWS were not particularly supportive of communities of color, and oftentimes the rate hikes served as a burden for expanding towards subdivisions, towards new customers, and oftentimes left the burden of the payments towards the communities. And one of the reasons why we got involved, this was earlier this year, specifically in this because we thought this was an important effort to bring to not only our members but to our general community and supporters. Um, and I felt that if SWU wasn't in that space, then it would be missing a large population of communities that otherwise wouldn't have been engaged within this group. And so that was one of the important pieces for us. However, SWU has been involved in work around Vista Ridge and work around SAWS since 2014 when we stormed City Hall
Yeah.
with 200 people asking that Vista Ridge not be a project, asking that we halt, and that asking that we build accountability for SAWS. And I feel that since that campaign back in 2014, a lot of this has been cumulative. There's been multiple lawsuits happening
Mm-hmm.
against the SAWS board around discrimination. There has been multiple, protests and actions outside of board meetings for SAWS. And I feel that we continue to keep asking. We have petition numbers. We have people that are asking for these things, and nothing really gets accomplished of it, and it kind of just whittles down. And I feel that we've gotten to a point right now where if we don't change the rules of how this
Mm-hmm.
company functions, then it'll continue to provide that same structure that it has for many years and not actually support community residents and continue to invest in private infrastructures, continue to ignore community vision and voices.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I feel that that's the main reason why we decided to be part of this petition, and also because we felt that our members, being primarily low income communities of color, oftentimes have a really big challenge, especially right now, paying rates. And so as we hold and as we create kind of this moment of crisis, particularly for families who um, are unemployed or who are struggling right now with funds, it's important that we create this space to really challenge sort of the structure of making more money and actually creating a structure of supporting the community that owns the utility.
Yeah, that's. I mean, that's. I wanted to ask about that rates issue, accountability issue in light of Vista Ridge. A lot of people may not even know, and maybe just checking in what's going on with the election and the ballot, what are the issues. Don't really know anything about Vista Ridge or the consequences of it for people's pocketbooks. So I wonder if you could just briefly go over that history and what it's meant to this point and for the future.
The Vista Ridge pipeline is a contract that San Antonio Water System has with Vista Ridge LLC to purchase up to 50,000 acre feet a year from the Carrizo aquifer groundwater, which is located in Burleson County, and deliver it 142 miles south to San Antonio. So this is a $3.4 billion deal, and it was signed back in 2014. and is supposed to be actually completed and online in 2020 this year. And so this is the initial agreement is to deliver 16.3 billion gallons of water per year from Burleson County to San Antonio.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I know that like you were saying, how strenuously it was opposed and fought, and here it is, it's turning on, and there's just a string of rate increases. I know my bill, we'd been paying for $34 a month maybe for years, and the majority of that was these fixed charges. It's like you've got to pay for the connection to the system, you've got to pay for they put the trash and all this stuff, and then they have a fixed base water fee on there. It's just like all this stuff I couldn't get away from. But I saw it. I mean, it's like $10, $15 more a month already. Um, so, um, so with that, I mean, is this petition going after rates, or what are the key elements? If you could describe to folks what the key elements of the petition are.
Right. So there's multiple pieces, and I think overall it holds SAWS accountable not only around rates but internally in their own structure to create a fair based system. So not only does it talk about salaries and benefits for the general manager, which receives bonuses, which could receive all these different incentives. But it allows that amount of their salary and benefits not to equal 10 times of the lowest paid SAWS employee in that period. So we've seen a lot of controversy around the managers and leaders of SAWS receiving bonuses each year while continuing to provide rate hikes. And so that has been a challenge, I think, every fall that a rate hike is being approved, is that there's communities coming together saying we need to slow down and halt a lot of this funding spent, because while we're seeing salaries and benefits increase for the highest paid members of SAWS, we're seeing the rates increase for the lowest income families in San Antonio.
Right.
It talks about term limits for Board of Trustees from are limited to 2 to 4 years. It talks about legislative and regulatory lobbying, and ensures that that trustees or general managers, there's not a conflict of interest in terms of working with SAWS or working with any other legislative or has any hidden agendas. It talks about ethics, not only with the general manager but also the SAWS board. That isn't limited to local ethics requirements, but also state and federal, and that they're able to be removed when those ethics are violated by city council. And the most important one, and I think the one that many community people have been asking when we talk about accountability, is we're talking about performance audits.
Yeah.
We're talking about audits that ensure that we're able to understand and determine any recommendations, any representations, any pieces that the city council needs to look on, so that we're able to understand exactly how not only the performance but also the accountability pieces that this happens. And so this allows for a lot of the ethics work to happen. This allows for a lot of the pieces around impacts, environmental impacts, things like that, to be able to happen, which is non-existent right now, and not in depth. And so if you go to the SAWS website, you'll see that, does Vista Ridge pose an environmental damage? And it'll say no, it does not. And so, which for that specific project, it wasn't required to do an environmental impact statement. There wasn't an audit that was made that was public to the community. And so we don't really trust that they're going through these steps to ensure that our communities are sustainable, to ensure that our communities are healthy and safe, and that the ecosystem isn't impacted
Hmm.
by projects intended to create more money for a utility.
Right. So rather than advancing kind of like another effort that's aimed at, just a straight up conservation or quote unquote environmental agenda, this had to be, it sounds like you're saying, an accountability agenda. And I'm wondering if that is something that you're hearing resonating with people when you're out collecting signatures.
It's the primary signature and the primary conversation we're having with people are specifically like around them saying that they don't quite understand the completeness of the bills and why they continue to increase.
Mm.
Uh, this piece of the SAWS Accountability Act will conform to the general accepted government auditing standards, which, really ensure that there's like management audits, economic impact audits, that there's any piece around like long-term environmental impacts, reliability, particular source of supply. And that really the piece that we're speaking about is that it talks about impacts on communities that depend on that water, but also that will depend on that funding as well.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that that's the piece that's definitely important and that reaches towards some of these rate hike pieces. Otherwise, we're not able to actually challenge or actually invest and say, this is a bigger issue. And so I think this opens the door. While this doesn't solve the biggest problems, it opens the door so that the space is there to have these conversations and to say, have these audits been done? Have these impacts and conversations had so that our communities aren't generating the burden of the cost, the burden of the environmental damage for a project that is not intended for us in the first place.
Yeah. What do you need? What do you need to be successful in this case? What's your calendar look like? I know it's similar. We're asking, like the folks at Fix SAPD and then the CPS recall petition, 20,000 signatures. You're aiming for more. And when do you need that by?
Our goal is to actually get more than 20,000 signatures to ensure that we are in compliance with that actual number. So ideally, getting double that amount helps because when they go to verify that signature, we want to make sure that if it's taken out, that there's one to replace it in that case. And so we are aiming for December 1st, and there are multiple people out in various locations. My organization, Southwest Workers Union, is focusing on areas that we've historically organized in, like the East Side and the South Side, where we do regular phone bankings, where we do regular get out the vote work. We are partnering with our action group to do in-person petitions at multiple sites. We are also running a parallel campaign that is a phone banking campaign that ensures that we're able to direct people to the right voting location, and that because we are organizing in that area, we are also simultaneously within that polling site, so that we're able to then meet people face to face if they need PPE, if they need support. We are there to kind of support them in that way with any type of things like masks or hand sanitizers that they might need going in, as well as gathering petitions. We've had a lot of challenges, honestly, particularly with some of the largest sites like AT&T Center, who caught the cops on a lot of our petitioners. And so we are seeing that there might be barriers to accessing sort of these spaces in a fair way. And so one of the things that we're focusing on at this time is sort of how do we do this within a pandemic with keeping not only people safe, but our own employees safe. And so we have have created a system for like drive-through petitioning, created a system so that we're able to meet people and walk around in different areas and kind of, and this is kind of as you go, we learn and kind of adapt. And I think that's the beauty of many canvassers and organizers is they're like on the ground learning and adapting what they've learned to ensure that we're getting petitions. So we are out there as well. We've seen Fix SAPD, we've seen CPS folks there as well, and so collaborating and making sure that we're in alignment so that we're not doubling up on sites. That we got our list good is definitely an important piece. We have some beautiful artwork that just came out from local artists to generate a bit more of a colorful appeal to the spaces. We are finding a challenge that not only do we have to know the rules around this piece around running charter amendments, but we also have to learn election boundaries and rules around that to make sure that our rights are not disrespected within polling places. And so that's a little bit of what we need. We're able to actually send people a letter with the signature. The primary challenge is that it has to be in person because it requires a manual signature.
Right.
And so that's the only way that we're able to generate that. And our primary goal is to get the 20,000 plus by December 1st so that it allows for adjustments during that 1 month.
So how can people support this work, both folks who are comfortable going out, with the level of protection, working with people, signing up, as well as those who aren't going out, who are more vulnerable folks or caregivers or what have you?
I think one is you could contact us at any location. You could contact the SAWS Accountability Act organizers to be able to participate. We are always looking for volunteers to come by, although it's not required. You don't even need to get off of your car. We are at multiple locations at this moment, and those can all be found through some of the social media sites. We do have multiple organizations working in alignment around this work. I think when it first began, there is a wide array of groups that are part of this coalition. The SAWS Accountability Act endorsers continues to grow as we move, but some of the primary people that are connected to this work is or have endorsed this has been the Sierra Club, Chapter 125. There is the League of Independent Voters of Texas. There is San Antonio Progressive Alliance, the Poor People's Campaign. We have Move SA. We have TOP, Texas Organizing Project. That are some of the people. And then, of course, we have LULAC, which was originally some of the organizations that filed lawsuit against SAWS initially within this group.
Awesome. Okay. Well, I look forward to seeing you out there and doing that work at some point. I've been pretty reclusive for health reasons, but yeah, thank you. I really appreciate your time. And any parting words for folks?
I think this is the moment where we have to think about ways to transition in a just way from the world that we've known. And part of that and part of this work is, a larger framework around just transition, moving away from the bad things that have historically damaged our communities and our, bodies and our families towards the good things, and ensuring that we're able to change the rules is a right that constituents of a public utility have. And so this is where we are at a point where we're beyond we've asked for this for many, many years, and seen that nothing has really happened towards ensuring accountability. And so this is part of a larger step that we are taking so that we're able to kind of not only one, generate support from the wider community, but also ensure that we're leaving a larger mark within the way this utility operates. And so whether we reach the signatures or not, we're still impacting and we're still generating a narrative with our community that's going to say, we're not forgetting a lot of these pieces. This work is cumulative
Right.
since before 2014, when we first talked about Vista Ridge, and it's taking this long for that work to not happen. And so right now we are at a point of, we can change the rules, and we will.